Greetings everyone, my name is Vinay. Now in today's agenda, we'll be having a look at the overview of integration server, the way we can deploy the integration server. Followed by that, we'll be looking at how to set up the integration with the QRadar SIM using the QRadar SOAR plugin app. And at the last, we'll be looking at how to set up the incident escalation from QRadar SIM to SOAR involving both manual and automatic methods. Now, we believe that you possess a fundamental grasp of IT security and you're familiar with the basic concepts of SIEM and SOAR. So let's get ourselves introduced to the integration server. So an integration server is a system that you use to deploy specific types of apps to the SOAR platform. Now the SOAR integration server must be able to access the SOAR platform and the hosts of the third-party applications that are integrated with your SOAR platform. Now, this platform can reside in your own environment known as on-prem, and it can also be within the IBM cloud known as the SaaS configuration. Now, the integration server is required only when you're deploying apps in the extension format, which is available in the .tar.gz file format. Now, specifically, the integration server communicates to a specific organization within the SOAR platform. Now, IBM Security has a number of apps in the extension format that you can download, can customize and deploy. Now, the procedure to install these extensions in the integration server is available at the link on the slide. Now, if you wish to develop your own app, let's say you're developing an app based on functions, you would need to use the SOAR SDK. If you're developing an app based on custom actions, or you're developing a thread service. Now, links to these specific aspects, let's say if you're developing an app based on custom actions, you wish to know what's the guide for the custom action developer. These links are available on our SOAR documentation webpage. Now, the architecture of the integration server consists of four components. One is the standard deployment, one is the SOAR platform with MSSP add-on, on-prem SOAR platform, and supported app types. Let's look at them one by one. Now, standard deployment. So in a standard configuration, typically there is a SOAR organization, there's a platform, and you have a SOAR organization for all the incidents. Now there can be multiple organizations for separate business divisions. Let's say there's one organization that you've set up for development, one there is for test, and one for production. Each organization is managed separately, and the users within the SOAR organization cannot view the other organization. Now, once your SOAR platform and organization is ready, you would need to deploy apps. Now, if you have custom apps, let's say you have a team who develops apps which is custom to your environment, apart from the apps that are already available from the App Exchange, you would need the integration server. Now, you need to set up and deploy the integration server. Once you have done that, you need to set up an integration between your SOAR platform and your integration server. As I mentioned in the previous slide, your integration server will be specifically communicating with a single organization from your SOAR platform. Now, the communication happens over port 443 and 65001. In the coming slides, we'll be looking at the purpose of each port. Now, once your integration server is set up and ready, and it is communicating with your SOAR platform, you will need apps. So you download the apps, you can point it to your repository where your apps are deployed, and you get those installed on your integration server. Now, there are users who communicate to your, who log in into your SOAR platform, who work on incidents, who communicate with apps. So it is communicated over the port 443 between the user and the organization on the SOAR platform. So this is how your standard deployment is set up. This is the architecture for a standard deployment. Now, the second aspect of the architecture involves the MSSP add-on. MSSP, commonly known as Managed Security Service Provider. This is an optional feature that allows you to manage multiple SOAR child organizations from a single configuration. Each child organization can be assigned to a different group or division or company to meet your specific incident response requirement. Now, if you're deploying app to a SOAR platform with MSSP add-on, like you're seeing in the diagram here, you need to deploy the app to the configuration organization using the resilient circuits as you would do in the standard deployment. We'll be looking at the resilient circuits in detail in our demo in the second part of today's session. Now, the difference is that you do not deploy an app to any child organization. As you can see here on the diagram on the right side, there is a SOAR platform, there's a configuration org, and below there are multiple child orgs. You don't need to deploy this app on any child org, you need to deploy it on the configuration org. Then you can then create a separate integration server for each child organization to run the app on that particular child org. So you can see in the diagram, there is integration server 1, 2, 3, respectively connecting to their child orgs over the ports 443 and 65001. And each integration server in turn is connected to the security app. Okay. Now you still need to install the app package using the normal pip install command. We'll be looking at that as well on the integration server, whose child organization uses that package. And need to configure the app.config file on each integration server. Next in the architecture is the on-prem SOAR platform. So if you have a SOAR platform in your environment, the integration server can be the same system as the one hosting the SOAR platform. However, IBM Security recommends that you keep them on a separate system for the listed reasons: security, performance, and access. Now, what do I mean by these three reasons? So when I talk about security, so although all the apps from the community app exchange are code scanned and tested, it is a security measure to not allow apps to the command line of the SOAR platform host. Performance. Now, although all the apps are resource efficient, running them on the SOAR host might impact the available resources, especially if you have apps that are heavily using in-memory processing. Last but not the least, the access. The administrator of the integration server is the one who maintains, installs, and configures the apps. Now, this administrator does not necessarily require access to the SOAR platform. So considering these three reasons, we recommend that you keep your integration server on a separate system apart from your SOAR platform. Now, the last aspect in the architecture is the supported app types. So these are the types of apps that you require on the integration server. So let's say if you have Python-based apps, they'll be in the extension format .tar.gz file. Here, the SOAR platform can be in on-prem or cloud configuration. For Java-based custom actions, the SOAR platform can be, again, same as on-prem or cloud configuration. For custom thread services, the SOAR platform here must be only on-prem. Now, there are also apps in the form of plugins, let's say for Splunk, for QRadar, which escalate incidents to the SOAR platform using the REST API. Now, you do not really need an integration server for these kind of plugins. Now, there are certain prerequisites when you are installing your SOAR platform, your integration server along with the SOAR platform. Let's look at them one by one. So what are the minimum system requirements? You need to make sure that you abide by this to ensure that your integration server is running properly. So operating system, as you can see, it's listed, it's RHEL 7.4 to 7.9, 8.6 or 9.1. CentOS is 7.4 or later. Python, very important aspect. Python versions need to be 3.6.9 or later, or you can have 3.9.14 or later. Why am I stressing or emphasizing on the Python aspect is because you would need that for your Python-based apps. So ensure that your Python versions are as they're recommended. You can check the version of the Python using the Python -- version command. Operating system account, another important aspect, the SOAR platform requires a dedicated operating system account. The resilient circuits components run as an unprivileged user. Storage, 5 GB is minimum, RAM is 8 GB minimum, and you need a text editor to edit the configuration file. So these are the minimum system requirements. Now, depending on the apps that you install, the integration server might require more resources Let's say some apps that operate on files in memory probably might require some extra memory. Apps that run decryption tasks may need more CPU. So you increase your resources based on your app requirement. Now, this is a list of prerequisite for the SOAR platform. So when you're having your integration server installed and deployed, it needs to communicate to the SOAR platform. So what is the recommended version of SOAR platform that should be? It should be version 31 or later. Some of the apps may require a later version as well. You need a dedicated user account to use the API user specifically for the integration server. Now, the system administrator provides this account, its credentials, and a set of permissions. Now, what are these accounts? One is the user account and one is the API key account. Username account comes up with the username in the form of email address and password. You must have seen that we use that to log in on the SOAR platform. And the API account with the ID and secret. Now, if you're using that's required only if you're using the version SOAR platform 35.2 or later of the SOAR platform and resilient circuits. Now, the account must have the permission to view and edit incidents and view and modify administrator and customizer settings. This is applicable to both user account and API account. In case if you're using a SOAR MSSP add-on, the SOAR platform must be version 38 or later. Now, the third aspect of prerequisite is the network configuration. Now, if the SOAR platform that you've deployed is beyond a firewall, let's say it is in a cloud setup or a cloud configuration, you need to configure the firewall to allow the integration server access to the following ports. Now remember, all these connections are inbound only from the integration server to the SOAR platform. Now, let's look at the ports. 443, this will be required for the app to connect to the SOAR data using the REST API. 65000, you will need this only if you are deploying and using Java-based apps. 65001, these are for Python-based apps. The integration server communicates with on this port. All these four functions are Python-based. 9000, this is a default port. This will be only if you're supporting the custom thread feeds, which is not applicable for a SOAR platform in a cloud configuration. The SOAR platform communicates with the integration server over HTTPS on a port that you choose. The default is 9000. Now, if the integration server has access to the internet, make sure the server can access these websites. That is pypi.org, python.pypi.org, and files.pythonhosted.org. Now that we have looked at the integration server's architecture, system requirements, prerequisites, you all must be curious to know what are the ways to deploy an app on an integration server. Because if you remember the previous session, we looked at deploying an app on an AppHost. And we had a lot of questions to understand the difference between the AppHost and the integration server, which Prabir had explained. So we have found ways to install app on AppHost. Now let's look at how we install the app on an integration server. Along with that, we'll also be looking at how to escalate incidents from the QRadar SIM to SOAR.